listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and good morning, listeners and viewers. This is the Wednesday morning edition of the Kingston Community Radio Show. We're broadcasting live from our studios here at 16 Lucas Avenue in Kingston, New York. 331-9255 is our call-in number, and as I'm speaking, in the door comes Supervisor from the town of Saugerties, Fred Costello. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing?
We are doing. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Pretty wet out there.
Yes, it is. And for those headed out this morning, allow a little extra time. It is still wet. It's very windy. There's wet leaves on the roadways. It's dark still, and it will be till about 7:30 now. And give yourself a little bit of extra time.
Also, there's it's not widespread, but there's quite a few trees down. So.
I kind of figured, and I just saw a string of text here from Tina, who cannot get out her driveway because she has a tree down across her driveway.
Yeah, and there's quite a few down. I don't have a good assessment of all the road closures. Saugerties, except for the southwestern part of town, is fairly clear running. But I know there was a lot of Central Hudson crews working in Hurley and Woodstock and Olive. So if you're in those areas, just use a little bit of extra caution and be patient. Those crews probably have been out there all night.
A lot of rain again, just all total just under 3 3/4 inches.
Oof.
3.69, I think, something like that. That's a lot of rain, And then, of course, what happens?
The ground's pretty saturated,
Well,
too.
the ground gets saturated, and the trees still have a lot of the, especially the hardwoods, still have a lot of foliage on them. And with the ground being so soft and saturated, winds that we're even experiencing this morning
Can uproot.
them.
Really something. But what's the forecast, though? When's this going to break?
Oh, we're out of the rain. It's going to be breezy most of the day,
Okay.
Which is good in a way. I think by this afternoon the sun will be out.
I've had a little bit.
Thursday and Friday look like decent days, and late Friday afternoon, Friday night, and the Saturday.
Okay.
Some more rain.
Oh, more rain.
Yeah.
All right. I thought I heard that, but then you made me feel better for a second. But we're going back into the weather. All right, it's okay.
Yeah, Saturday's not going to be the nicest day. In fact, I stopped at the office this morning before coming here. Judith Spector had emailed me about using the Greco Center for their last farmers market. Because, as she put it, cold. It's really not going to be cold. It's just going to be chilly and damp. But we have early voting taking place. And yesterday afternoon, Neil did his first series of vaccination shots at the Greco Center in the small room. And it worked well, even with the early voting. I was over there at about a little before 3 o'clock, about 2:45, and even though he advertised and encouraged all people not to come until 3 o'clock, there was...
A couple of early birds?
No, more than a couple. More than a couple. He was so crowded, overwhelmed, I didn't even get a chance really to speak to him. I said, "Is everything fine?" He said, "This is great," and left it at that.
All right, good.
It is good.
Very good.
And he'll be doing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next several weeks.
So imagine a high percentage of the folks that got our first series of vaccine from him would have the opportunity to get our third dose, the boosters.
Get the booster shots. And, even if you haven't had your first shot, you can get your first shot there. He's also putting emphasis on, this is why he's primarily having it after school hours for school children who play school sports, SA, Biddy League sports, etc. And I bet you the mayor forgot that he's supposed to be here the fourth Wednesday.
No, he knows he'll be here at some point.
Oh, he does know? Okay.
He knows. Unless something might have happened in the village, too, that we don't know about. So,
that could be.
Yeah, he'll be here at some point. We have a full lineup tonight, right?
Yeah, we have
March
Gallagher at 7:30, and I believe she's coming to the studio because she has the last several times. And then Kevin Cahill at 8 o'clock. And
sounds like a good show.
No way you beat me here.
Yeah, man, we've been on air already for a while.
Yeah. Speak of the devil, were your ears burning because we were just talking about you? Mayor William Murphy just walked into the studio.
My ears are always burning.
Burning. Good morning.
Good sign.
Good morning. I don't know if it's a good sign or not, but that's what they're burning with.
Exactly.
Oh, my new shirt.
Uh-oh.
My clothes are all single use. I find a way to ruin them every time.
What are the exciting things you're talking about?
Weather.
What do I have to do with the weather? You said you were talking
Well,
about.
no, he had asked about the lineup. I went over the lineup, and I said, I wonder if the mayor forgot that it was the fourth Wednesday of the month.
Nope, I even texted Freddie last night, 10 o'clock.
That's what he told me.
And he actually responded quickly. That's unusual, too.
I'm still at work.
It's like 10 o'clock. I'm like, he's probably still at work. So
I'm still at work. We watched, that was quite a game. I didn't expect.
I'm wondering.
Atlanta.
Yeah, it was 5-2 when I went to bed, or 5-1 when I went to bed.
I don't know if that was the final score, but something like that.
They scored 5 in the first 2 innings.
That team can hit. They're and they have a little swagger right now. See how it goes.
Cousin Tommy on first base, crew chief. Look, he got a little flack for punching out Corral the one time on the check swing for the announcers. I think that was like the 4th inning, 3rd inning.
I think that was just the hometown folks wanting.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. He'll be behind the plate tonight. That'll be cool.
That'll be really neat.
Yeah,
good for him.
Absolutely.
Oh, so they no longer go around the bases to home?
They go first to home.
They used to years ago go from third to home.
As long as I've paid attention, it's always been first to home.
I think so. You could be right.
Get Tommy on the horn.
Because I think you get third base at their home because third's kind of the day off position. You don't get a lot of calls at third.
That's true.
But listen, I'm in a house full of women, so I'm always wrong. But at least when I foul, I know it goes from first to home. So we'll see. I can't really get into watching it, but I like watching the beginning festivities of Game 1. That's always cool. The lineups, national anthem, all the fanfares. It's kind of cool.
It is kind of neat. I like the game actually.
I do, but I can't usually sit and just watch a full 9-inning game like straight through. I got to be flipping channels, and if one of my teams aren't in it, then it's even harder to watch.
Well, I feel the same way.
know.
Now, of course, with the fact that the Braves are playing the Astros,
I want to see the Astros lose.
yes, I have a little more interest with the fact because
I think most people outside of Houston feel that same way.
yes,
You know?
yeah.
So, but the thing is, I hate. Like I'm a Dusty Baker fan. I mean, he's always been a class manager in baseball. So even though I'm rooting against Houston, I'm not rooting against Dusty. I've always kind of liked him.
I didn't even know he was the Astros manager until
Yeah.
we were watching the playoff series. I'm like, holy cow! I didn't realize he ended up there.
He's been around a long time.
He's been around a long time, and he saw a lot of really amazing baseball and some pretty special players.
I didn't realize he came up through Atlanta, and they were saying last night how Henry Aaron was his mentor growing up. Like,
Really?
when he came to Atlanta and got drafted, I think that was 19, I think they said 67 he got drafted. And Aaron took him under his wing. And he spent 6 years from 67 to 74, or 68 to 74 with Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Then they're saying how the coach of the Braves also came up in the Atlanta organization about 5 or 6 years later and was also mentored by Henry Aaron. And Henry Aaron gave him his first coaching job he was 28 and he was kind of a journeyman catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry Aaron, I think they said in 1978, hired him to be, or 81, hired him to be a manager in the minor league system for Atlanta. And he's been with him ever since. So they both got their start through Henry Aaron. It was kind of a cool connection.
He's smiling right now. His legacy's living on.
Yep.
That's kind of neat. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, but I went to bed about 11:30. I think it was 5-1, bottom of the seventh when I went to bed.
Yeah, I don't know. We should look up the final score because then
That's very easy to
Very
do.
easy.
yeah, couldn't wait to get out of there. But it was an interesting game, and I was impressed with Atlanta. They definitely.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it. My friend, our friend Randy Dodig's always been diehard Atlanta fans. So I know he's pulling for the Braves, so I'm pulling for him.
6-2.
6-2.
6-2. They had found a way to score another run.
It was funny too. I watched. I always hate missing home runs, and I watched all the open ceremonies. I watched the first batter get up, saw a few pitches, flip the channel, flip back, leadoff guy hits a home run. I'm like, how did I miss that?
Smashed one too. And
Like
then
Solier or whatever. I was pissed. I'm like, how did I miss that
killed
home
it.
run?
And then I don't know his name, Cover. He crushed one too. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh, Carrera?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, he was Carrera's on the Astros, right?
Yeah, Carrera's on the Astros.
One of the Atlanta hitters. Can't remember his name because I don't know these teams well enough. But he mashed one. It was cool. It was a fun game to watch.
I'm gonna beat Greg to it. It was Adam Duvall and Jorge
Duvall.
Soler. Soler led off the game with a home run, and Adam Duvall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So kind of just he smashed it. It was great. It's kind of neat too. It's true with all the sports because over the weekend, Tom Brady. I know he's controversial, but you got to give it to him.
You know what?
And
But did you hear what happened with the kid at the game?
greatest story ever.
I mean, I had tears in my eyes.
Yep.
About a couple years ago, this young boy at the age of 6 was diagnosed with brain cancer. And his father and him always watched football together. And at the age of 6, he became a huge Brady fan. And this kid, just diehard Brady. That's all he cared about was watching Brady. And somehow the father's second cousin was Todd Heap, who was a tight end for the Ravens at one time. I remember Todd Heap. And they reached out to Brady. And during this kid's cancer treatment one day, and the mother was saying it was like one of the lowest days during his treatment, they get in the car after leaving the hospital, and she's got a voice video message. And who's it from but Tom Brady, wishing her son, encouraging her son to fight the cancer and all that. And the kid's now in remission. And he came to the game Sunday. After the game was over, Brady walked over to him in the stands and gave him his game hat, the hat he wears on the sideline. And this kid was just, and to hear the story behind it and how, listen, people, again, people love to hate people who are on top and people who do things right. I always battle with my wife. My wife can't stand Tom Brady because he cheated on his first girlfriend, with Giselle. And she's like, but I mean, the guy does everything right.
Yeah, he does.
People don't, and every time you hear him interview, he always talks about his parents, his mom, his dad. I'm sorry. You can call it man crush, whatever you want to call it, but the guy is phenomenal. And these are isolated stories. He does stuff like this all the time with people.
You hear those stories from players who played with him, coaches. He's the real deal. We're just jealous. Can't help it.
Oh, absolutely jealous. My God,
that story was awesome.
Oh, I had tears, and I sent the link to my wife and daughter saying, "Here, this is why he's a great guy. I mean, this is what he does." And he didn't do it for any fanfare, but he went over and handed the kid his hat, and the kid's like shaking. It was.
He cried. His dad was pretty emotional too.
And they had the kid and his dad on CNN yesterday morning.
I didn't even see that.
That's where I found out about it. You know. And the father was just saying how, when he was in the, getting his treatments, he actually got a video from Tom Brady, wishing him good luck. And so the kid had a sign in the stands during the game saying, "Tom Brady, help me beat cancer."
Wow.
And he was sitting in the front row in the end zone. And it was just really a neat story. And the thing is, there's a lot of good stories like that in professional sports, but of course the media wants to focus on the guy who beats up his girlfriend or takes drugs or whatever. They don't want to focus on that. Probably 90% of these guys do the right thing.
Yeah. Plus he hit another milestone.
600. What you know the guy who got the ball? The guy who got the ball, because when he got Michael Evans got the pass, didn't realize it was Tom Brady's 600 TD and went and handed somebody in the crowd. And then they're like, oh. So this guy ended up negotiating. He was a 27-year-old guy. He got an autographed Brady jersey, an autographed Mike Evans jersey, an autographed game ball. He got season tickets for the rest of this year and next year, $1,000 credit line at the gift shop. And then Brady's went over the top and said, listen, this guy's getting short change. I would have held out for a lot more if I was him. Brady gave him $60,000 in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. God knows that Bitcoin's going to be worth, too, if he hangs on to it.
Brady said, he goes, I would have held out for more. Brady goes, I wasn't the one negotiating, So Brady goes, I felt bad. I thought we took advantage of him, so he gave him a $60,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which also promotes his company, he's big into, but still, it's, that guy's like, I would have given that up for a football, I would have given up a football for that any day.
I know. But how do you keep it on the flip side?
Why would you want to,
You can't. That's such a...
If you're a true fan of sports...
Whoever did it deserves to hold that as long as they want to, and then has to go into the Sports Hall of Fame.
Yep.
That's just one of those things you have to keep. 600's ridiculous. There's nobody that's done that before.
No. And he's 44.
I know.
Yeah. And he looks better this year.
Yeah,
I remember my fantasy draft. He was like the 7th quarterback taken in our fantasy draft. I passed on him. I took Justin Hebert, who's doing great too. But you keep. And I've had Brady many years on my fantasy team. But you get to the point where is he really worth a high pick in fantasy?
I wonder because how he's.
It's just amazing.
If he's the only human, right? So at some point he's got to suffer an injury, or his skills got to diminish, or God knows what.
I don't know.
But he eats. So disciplined.
Oh yeah, he's a disciplined lifestyle.
Yeah,
no doubt. And I'm jealous. I just admit it. I'm jealous. All right, he's my man.
Coffee in the morning. I'll tell you that.
He's one of my man crushes. I have no problem saying that. I wouldn't leave my wife. I wouldn't leave my wife for him. But
I'm sure Dina's happy to hear.
I may cheat on her with Tom Brady. If I got some Bitcoin for it.
We got a couple announcements here that these gentlemen will read.
All right, Snowflake Festival, Friday, December 3rd, 6 to 8 p.m. in Uptown Kingston. Raffle closes November 15th for kids under 12. Winners must pick up bike at festival. Helmets and locks provided by Bike Friendly Kingston. And this year's sponsors are Catskill Hudson Bank, Berardi Real Estate, BHHS Hudson Valley Properties. And again, this is the Snowflake Festival presented by Cuba Networks, Friday, December 3rd, 6 to 8 p.m. in Uptown Kingston.
I think we're kind of acknowledging we're in the holiday season now.
I guess
this
so.
is another one. All are invited. Wreaths Across America, sponsored by the Sargis VFW Post 5034. This bus trip will be to the Saratoga National Cemetery. We'll place wreaths on each of the graves. They'll remember the fallen, honor those who served, teach our children the value of freedom, and this will happen on Saturday, December 18th, 2021. It'll be $15 per person, and it leaves from the Greco Center at 10 a.m., and they will be returning about 5 p.m., and there will be a cash lunch stop along the way. To purchase a wreath, the cost is $15 each, and make your check payable to the Sargis VFW Post 5034, P.O. Box 152, Sargis, New York 12477, or you can contact Bob Howe directly at 845-246-8510. So
Bob's been doing that. He popped into the office yesterday, and I was right in the middle of a meeting with several of my team, and I got to find out how many years he's been doing that.
It's been quite a while.
Feels
long
creeping up
time.
on a decade, I imagine, right? At least
I would think so. Yeah.
for him. And it's for anybody who's gone, it's really an uplifting experience. So if you're thinking about it or you just want to sponsor by helping out, that's either way certainly a worthwhile cause.
I mean, we're lucky. We have very active American Legion of VFW, and it's gotten more and more active over the years. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
I mean, almost like, I mean, there's been a lot of great guys. I think like people like Kevin Pendergrass, they just put it on steroids.
Yes,
you know,
you have.
Yeah.
and the outreach they do in the community is unbelievable.
Well, you got to stop and think. What 8-10 years ago, the VFW was about to go under.
Right.
They're about to go defunct.
that was a great partnership.
Yeah. Quite a partnership. And I believe they're doing a breakfast at the Legion.
I know they're doing a turkey dinner, right? The 15th, I think, is a turkey dinner.
You're doing a turkey dinner, and
did a-
maybe it's December. I don't know. I'm gonna have to check into that.
Yeah, we'll read about that too.
Or if one of our listeners
You're
or
gonna do
viewers know about it, give us a little jingle here. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. And then picking up off of your theme, that must be the holidays coming around the corner. Right around the corner, a week from Thursday, is the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund. And we encourage all listeners and viewers to give us a call at the or stop in over at Boyce Dairy Milk House and make a pledge. Or if you stop by, bring a check. You can also make a pledge anytime prior to next Thursday, make payment towards next Thursday. There's information on the KCR website, including an electronic Venmo link to pay. And we have got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Hi,
Morning,
George. How are you?
Hey, terrific. If you was talking about the American Legion Turkey Dinner, that is going to be November the 16th, and orders have to be in by November the 10th.
Yes. I was off by a day. I knew it was 15th or 16th.
Perfect.
Yep, and it's
Wrong again?
And it's $16 per dinner and stuff.
There's not too many places you can go anymore and get a full dinner for $16.
Yes,
Can't get chicken wings for
contacted,
$16.
Kevin yesterday to reserve somewhere between 3 and 7 dinners for people down and around here in the town of Esopus area, because we got friends that like when they had the roast pork dinner the last week.
Yeah.
That went really well from what I heard from Kevin and stuff, and so this one's hopefully should do just as well, if not a lot better.
I think the final number was 319 or 329.
I know it was over 300.
They made well
big
over $1,200, $1,500 off the dinner, I think.
Wow.
That's a lot of dinners.
Yep,
Yeah.
and I tell you what, it was excellent too. So they even had us Sopus people driving up there. But
good.
hey, looks like early voting is slow. I know yesterday probably was a disastrous day because with all the rain and the heavy wind, I don't think very many people got out.
Yeah, probably not, but
Because I was Sunday and Monday, I was at the Newport site working and stuff, and we averaged each day maybe about 55 people for the day.
How does that rank compared to other years?
According to the paper, we're lower this year than what we was in the previous years.
It's,
I
so
think it was
folks,
under 1%.
I mean, it happens every time. Folks pay so much attention to the presidentials, but these local elections have just as much impact, and certainly don't get the.
They're more important because they affect us more directly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they need to get out and vote. And when I was there Sunday, I put my early ballot in already, and it's an easy process. It's easy to do. All you do is come down, sign in, and they'll print the ballot up for whatever district and area you're in. You fill it out and put it in the machine, and you're in and out within 10 minutes. And there haven't been really any lines. We had a couple hot spurts on Monday, but that was only for 7 or 8 people in line. But it's an easy process. It'll be much easier going in there this week to get it done and stuff, and instead of waiting for election day, and you may have a little bit longer lines on election day. At least I hope we do. But election day, I'll be down at the American Legion place in town of Lloyd Highland. So, but no, they definitely can use the people. They're getting bored. And when they get bored, they start doing silly things at times.
Yeah. I would encourage anybody to who hasn't tried it to go give it a try. The early voting is really, really easy. It's convenient. It's safe.
I've driven by it like 20 times already. I should stop in and just do
Stop
it.
and just
you know?
do it. It's
And I was in there yesterday.
I saw you were on a golf cart yesterday. Huh? I saw you pulling the parking lot yesterday there on a golf cart.
That wasn't me.
On the golf cart?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, yes.
Oh, you guys were planting the trees.
Yes.
We had overnight and yesterday.
Yesterday it was raining. It was Sunday. Monday.
and please, folks, go out there and vote. It's a privilege that we shouldn't take lightly.
It's an honor that a lot of people gave their life for, and when you heard the stories from the program they had on Saturday, Garden Country, you realize how important it is to get out there and vote. And that program was terrific. It was fantastic. Listening to the people that actually was in or took part in the Battle of Midway, people that was with Patton 7th Army, and all the other people that was there, and a couple of people from Vietnam. That was a fantastic program that went on Saturday at the Best Western. I just wish more people would have attended it, but it was fantastic. But anyhow, you guys have a great day. Good luck. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully a lot of this water start draining out from all the places that it's been building up the past day. So you guys have a great day, and good luck.
You do the same, and thanks for your call. And
Thanks, George.
Speaking of voting, apparently there's a shortage of election inspectors in Sorgetes. Fran DiPetrillo reached out to me on Monday. On Monday, and she'd asked if I could put the word out, and I sent to the people at the Legion, the VFW. I figure those people are retired, they're veterans, they may be looking to make some extra money, to do an email blast out. And then one had a question about the pay, and I did not, so I had to call Fran back. And it was only an hour and a half or a couple hours later, and she said, "Thank you for doing this, because I think I've lost another 2 in that time frame." So any of our viewers or listeners, if you're interested in working the polls on Election Day, reach out to the Ulster County Board of Elections. They'll give you all the details, the rate of pay. If you are in Sorgetes and you're in one district and you have to you travel to another district, you get mileage. So if you're interested, reach out. I'm not sure if they've filled all the voids, but it's better to give them a call if you're interested.
So one of the things that I learned when we had Ashley and John on last week, the 2 election inspectors, the Board of Elections during election cycles is the largest employer in the county.
Yeah.
That blew me away.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of people to do this and make sure it's done correctly. So, it's a great opportunity for a little bit of public service, and you can make a little bit of money while you're doing it. So,
How many polling places we have now in Sorgetes?
I think we're down to 3. We have Glasgow, the Senior Center, and I think
we still vote at Malden.
Oh, 4 then.
I thought it was 5 total. Does Mount Marion have one? I thought it was 5.
There's always
5.
Yeah, I don't know. We should ask Ashley and John when they're on.
I know
because they when they redistrict for the legislature, they changed a lot of the voting. And I remember that one election cycle when it first happened, folks were going to their traditional spot and were directed to go someplace else, and it was not a happy day.
Yeah, and I know the voting does take place at the Malden Firehouse, where I voted for years. After the redistricting, even though I live right next to the Malden Firehouse, I vote at the Greco Center. And somebody all the way down on the other side of the Malden Turnpike that lives on the north side of the turnpike still votes at Malden. But I could literally roll or crawl to the firehouse.
Funny.
And but that's where the line got drawn, right down the center of the Malden Turnpike, and
They did it just to piss you off, Greg. That's all.
Yeah, there it
very
knows.
well be, who
And
knows?
then that same scenario happened to folks who live in Mount Marion. Neighbors in the park voting some in I think it's Mount Marion School, and then or the firehouse, and then the rest go to Glasgow, and they drive right past the polling place to get to where they have to go.
Yeah, right. So so the 5 would be Mount Marion, Glasgow, Greco Center,
Cedar Grove.
Malden. I'm still coming up.
Cedar Grove.
Cedar Grove?
Yeah. All right. West Camp. Or no, Cedar Grove, they're on 212, right?
Yeah, I think they do it up there at the firehouse. That one moved a couple times out because it used to be at Ridge Runners, then it was at Moore School.
Oh,
So
okay.
we could be
Yeah.
wrong, and we definitely
We'll have to
bad
find that
information
out
there. It
and
might
get
be
some
back at
accurate
Moore
information.
School.
But right now, in the meantime, it's time to take a break, and we'll be back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org. Produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Okay, we're back.
That's a good sign.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners that have been with us the first half hour. And those just joining us, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We'd love to hear from you. We're expecting March Gallagher here very, very shortly. In the studio is Mayor of Saugerties, Village of Saugerties, William Murphy.
William.
And our town supervisor, Fred Costello.
Federico Costello.
Yeah.
Federico.
And Gregory Jarvis.
Very formal this morning. So, off air, Bill and I and Greg were talking about the forum we hosted discussing the new marijuana law, and the next phase of that will hit in January. By January, towns have the opportunity to opt out, which is kind of even if you opt out, your residents can overrule the opt-out.
It's kind of like the Central Hudson plan, that energy plan.
Yeah.
Everybody's opted in once you opt out.
And in addition to that, there's if we're not proactive, you miss the opportunity to zone and control where the locations are going to be, and I certainly don't want to miss that. So for now, we're operating on the premise that the town will not opt out, so we'll be part of it, and there'll be opportunities for retail. We want to restrict where they're going to go.
Right, and I think the village is going to go that same way. I just don't know because we have not made a decision as a village board yet, because my goal is actually to start discussing it next week with the board after we had our initial town hall. I was hoping more members of my board would show up to that. Right, I want to give my board as much information as possible. I know personally how I feel, but, I can't speak for my whole board. That's why I specifically said at that meeting Monday night that at this current time, I didn't even say anything about it. I just said this meeting's not for the purpose of discussing pro or con or whether we're going to support it or not support it. It's just to get everybody's opinion. But somehow the Freeman screwed that up.
Good information out there, too.
Oh, it was great. I thought Ruben really blew me away.
Crushed it.
He was phenomenal at that meeting. And, Martha's great, Dave's great. It was really a good meeting, and I think we got a lot of positive feedback from it.
And somebody else who was great just walked into our studios here, March Gallagher, because they'll go on and on.
I tried to come yesterday. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I have a quick dumb question, and as the comptroller, I should have this answer, but I don't, so I'm going to ask you. Is there a local revenue piece to housing these?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, fairly significant. I think we get
4%.
Yeah, of the sale.
It's 15%, which 9 goes to the state, 1% goes to the county, and 4%.
So there's an extra tax that comes back local. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
So we're in budget season, so in my mind, I'm trying to say, okay, if we did this and there's a successful retailer, what does that translate into dollar-wise?
Right.
But it's hard to make. I know. So
you is not going to hit your 2023 budget.
Right.
So
yeah, well, not why it could if there was one running in 2022.
I thought they said I thought that the message I got at that meeting that it wouldn't even be possible before 2023.
Okay, well, if that's true, then it wouldn't hit till then. But depending how you, and I don't know which formula would give you a fair estimate. So
someone asked me that yesterday. And I'm like, I have no. What do these places make? Do they make $100,000 a year or 500? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe look at Massachusetts revenues and see.
So we were taking some data that other folks shared with us and dividing it by population or by store or a number of ways, and it's all over the place. One way you'll conclude.
I hate to say it, but we probably have more potheads here than a lot of other states, so you might get more
Massachusetts
revenue.
is enjoying right now.
People are driving over the border.
But there's a high percentage of folks that drive over the border. Mm-hmm. And so
we used to do that for booze. Remember when we were kids? When I was 18, when I was 21 here and 18 in Massachusetts, we used to drive over the border to get it.
Yep. That's
I didn't personally.
More time. Right.
I would never.
I had friends who did it. Yeah. We had friends who did it. We didn't go.
No, we didn't go.
Oh, you guys were so good. I just stood outside the liquor store and asked adults to buy me liquor. And looking back on that, I think to myself, I would never. If a kid asked me, like, will you buy me a bottle? There is no way
yes.
I would do that. No, absolutely not. Yeah. So, all right. Well, no more indiscretions. We're not going to talk about that anymore. But it is interesting to see, what the revenues will be. And it just shows you that we've been sending a lot of money out of state.
Yes, we definitely have.
Well, a question, actually, somebody asked me yesterday, one of my board members. So when the cuts come, like, in other words, the village and town, is it one payment, say, to the town for the 4%, and then the village gets their portion, or we each get paid? Is it?
It's a good question.
Yeah, and I said, I didn't have.
Fight. Let's have an arm wrestle over that.
No, because, like, for instance, sales tax, it goes through you guys, and then it comes to us. Would that be the same?
It may be similar, yeah.
Similar. And so, in other words, if we're.
Comes from us, the sales tax, from the county to the town.
But in this case, this case, they said the county gets 1% of the sales tax. So it would still go through the county and then distributed to the municipalities, we think? That's what I would think, right?
I would think that. Well, yeah, why would you reinvent a mechanism when you have one that exists?
Yeah. But the thing is, will the county give it so is the county going to pay the village directly, or they pay the town and the town pays the village? I guess that's the
Don't we get separate checks?
Yeah, don't we pay you now?
Yeah.
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 So I can tell you right now, I don't think the proposed budget has any marijuana
for
revenues
that,
in it.
No, I don't think it should for 2022, just because it's still an unknown. It's,
Yeah.
You may get something going by the end, and if you get anything in 2022, it's gravy.
Yeah, just bonus.
Right.
Never hurts to have fund balance. I'm curious about that part of it, March, but I think ultimately we can't make this decision motivated
money.
strictly by revenue.
No, I agree.
It's there's a lot of ways to make money and a lot of ways to get in trouble making money. So we
That's what I used to tell someone yesterday. I said, to me, this is not about revenue. It's about it's here. It's going to happen. We need to just be on top of it the best we can.
And one of the things that's motivating me, and our board hasn't fully agreed to this yet. There's still a conversation happening, but it seems like there's a majority of our board that wants to participate in it. And I think one of the major things that motivates them is if we stay in the program and we adopt legislation, because we're staying in, we can restrict where it goes, and it won't be near churches, and it won't be near schools, and it won't be in someone's garage where it's not in plain sight. I think if we're going to do it, it should be open, much like alcohol, very much like a liquor store. People go, and at least on the early part of it, there's a concern about traffic, because if whoever opens first is going to be overwhelmed with with people coming, and there's going to be a lot of traffic associated with that, and we want to be on the front side of that to minimize those impacts. As we speak to the folks that were helping us, the thing we learned was being prepared is very important, and areas that weren't quite as prepared as they should have been had all the problems.
Yeah.
It was finding its way to underage people. There was these traffic congestion problems at the retail locations. There was fighting and other security problems. So I don't want any of that. Right. We want to try to do this in as organized a way as we can. And I think Bill agrees. We were so lucky to have Dave, Martha, and Ruben share their experiences in other states.
I mean, I think we're ahead of a lot of the communities.
I think so.
To have that town hall.
Is that episode recorded? Because I was talking to folks in the town of Esopus. Dang.
So we're going to do it again.
Yes.
Because we picked the date. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
November.
But that one we're going to do, and we're going to try.
16th, I think.
To record it. Yeah, I think that would
Not
be
just
helpful.
that, I think
for
we're going
other
to try to make a
communities.
WebEx link so that folks don't necessarily have to come out to participate in
Right.
the meeting. They can do it remotely.
And we should record and run it on TV, Cable 23 too. So
We put that together so quickly, but looking back, the WebEx option is great. Greg sets up the links for us. We have an owl now that's actually pretty good, and that records it as you go. So immediately after, we can post the link, and folks
Anybody can see it. Yeah, I feel like you guys are a few steps ahead of other towns, and it would really help folks to be able to see that. And you had good experts at the table, so.
Yeah.
I think we had about, probably close to 50 people.
I was impressed with the turnout.
It was. And it was very, everybody behaved. We kind of set that tone in the beginning, Freddie and I, and it was just a very...
So nobody was lighting up in the...
not at all.
I'm
I think
teasing
Rob
you
said
guys.
there were 53 chairs were set up.
So they went on the rack and pulled a few more off.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yes, every chair that was set up was full, and we went to the rack and pulled probably another 10 off. So 60 or so.
Yeah,
folks.
it was nice.
And it was interesting too, because the only folks that came were either huge advocates for it or huge advocates against it. And Bill's right. We had a great dialogue. I think anybody who came would agree.
There was only two people that really, and I wouldn't even say they spoke out against it. They questioned it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't out. Nobody said I'm totally against this. And they were fair questions.
Mm-hmm.
And even the people who support it didn't sit there and try to shove it down people's throats either. I think most of the supporters were there saying they just wanted to hear more. They didn't really need to comment.
Mm-hmm.
Medical.
Surprised we've gotten to this day, honestly.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
I can't believe I'm sitting here having this conversation with you guys, really.
It's such plus, when we grew up, it was around us quite a bit when we were going through our school and college years. And it was such a taboo to bring up with parents and peers. Now it's kind of this open conversation you have at breakfast.
Wall
it's
Street
so
smells
bizarre.
like weed every day that I go out for lunch, and I'm like, who is puffing over here at the courthouse? I don't know. No, I'm teasing. But no, it does. It's more common to smell it, and it's a surprise that we've gotten to this day. And I think
agree.
New York wouldn't if it wasn't the revenue issue. We say it shouldn't be a revenue issue, but I think it is.
You do?
Yeah.
But I felt like there's so much pressure I mean, I don't think Governor Cuomo wanted to do
No,
it.
that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think he wanted it, but
I felt like there was a political pressure he was responding to from progressives that were wanting it to happen. And
I mean,
challenging
certainly
his-
decriminalization was the right way to go
Yeah.
because that's just a ridiculous waste of resources. Yeah.
So one of the things, apart from the mechanics of what we're proposing is being done, was Ruben and Dave really went to that, the criminalization and the disparate treatment amongst population groups. And Dave put that legacy out there, and it was really an interesting history lesson. And it conjured up a lot of...
How the name marijuana even came up.
Yeah.
You know, how that name, because the real name is cannabis.
Yep.
You know?
And something that struck me too was he offered an analogy about kind of the players of the day, Randolph Hearst and some of the other heavyweight finance people being farmers, and didn't look at hemp or cannabis as a crop that they could earn subsidy for. So they were trying to get rid of it altogether, and they had some influence, and that was clear. It took 60 or so years to.
I thought about the other night. I mean, isn't this a great pivot opportunity for farmers, local farmers who are struggling?
I think I don't know. As they were talking about that open air, I think that's like a niche kind of craft market for marijuana.
And we have farmers sitting on a lot of hemp right now that was harvested over the last 2 years that the market really isn't there. Yes. So
that's the problem they had in Oregon. Remember he said,
yeah. So I don't know if it is or it isn't, and I do think there's a security component with growing it outdoors.
True. Yeah.
That comes into play. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the indoor growing because it has such a huge carbon footprint. I mean, the energy consumption is, what was it, 14 megawatts? Is the
14.
proposal for the one that's going down in the old Charade building. Saugerties as a community, we only use 35 a day. 14 is
a lot.
A lot. That's a third of what we use as a whole community for one marijuana grow. That's a huge commitment. So, as these move forward, I think there has to be a real emphasis and focus on using renewable energy and energy that's going to have a small carbon footprint.
it's going to be interesting. Somebody said to me in casual conversation recently that there's $1 billion of development proposed in Ulster County. I went to the planning department. I was like, wait, I need a list. They did share a list of major projects with me. It didn't have dollar figures attached, but as I started to kind of add up all the things that are out there, and then you're like, well, does Bel Air count anymore? I don't know. But Cresco Labs is on there. Winston Farm is on there. I mean, there are some big things happening in Ulster County. So it's going to be an interesting 5 years for sure. And we desperately need housing. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. If I have
of course, this is your hour. We're stealing it.
Just on that, yesterday, right? The S&P the county got a AA.
Yeah, for our bond rating. Yeah, for our bond anticipation notes. Yep, that's always a great thing. We want to have a good bond
Excellent
rating.
financial management was cited, I believe. I heard.
Yeah, so that's good. I think that speaks well to the finance team and the county executive's work. And
it does.
Yeah, so it's excellent. You know, I'm the watchdog, right? So I get credit for things that aren't really credit for me, but I did want to talk about housing. We did a little snapshot study of emergency housing. I know that Saugerties is home to a few emergency housing facilities, and we anonymized motels and hotel names. But the finding really is that, we are using emergency housing. We spent about $3.8 million in 2020. That was fewer nights than 2019, probably because of the eviction moratorium. Black individuals and families are overrepresented in the emergency housing population. So we were talking about inequities for a minute ago. And the length of stay for individuals and families is quite long, 70 days for individuals and 97 days for families. That means families are spending, almost 3 months
Temporary housing.
Motels while they try to find housing because they're very difficult to find.
When you said that, it startled me, but knowing the tightness in the housing market,
it really makes
it
sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So we made some recommendations to the IDA and actually had the chance to talk to them about it yesterday on things. How could the IDA be helpful here? Could they adopt housing pilots that really promote affordable housing, workforce housing, mixed income housing? And as a part of that conversation, we went back to the Tri-County housing study that was done back in the early 2000s. It was Dutchess, Ulster, and orange counties. And we, according to that study at that time, should have built 28,000 units of housing.
Really?
By 2020. And we have built about 1,200. So
you
yeah.
came up a little bit short there.
Yeah, we came up a little bit short. For people who are really interested in housing, there's a Pattern for Progress housing conference this whole week. It's mornings 9 to 11. Oh, not the whole week. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it's actually fascinating. It turns out that lack of development of housing stock is not unique to the Hudson Valley, Ulster County, or New York State. It's a national problem. And we've developed high-end housing, and we've developed some low-income housing, but we failed to develop in the middle. So that speaks true. I mean, just think about like how many units we were building, in the 70s. Nothing like today. Way more than we are now. So, we need to get to the place where it's okay to build housing, where we support building housing, and we have to rethink a lot of our zoning to get there.
Huge issue, complicated, and it requires a lot of education for folks like Bill and I who are in leadership roles and our public that we represent, because the fastest way to fill a room is to propose an affordable housing complex in the neighborhood. Everybody will come.
I know one of the people that opposed the Repco project in Woodstock told me that it was their biggest life regret to oppose that project. And I think what we need to do is get neighbors like that who now see what the housing has done to their neighborhood and come out and talk about it. This is what I thought, myth versus reality, perception versus reality. This is what I thought it was going to be like, and actually this is what it's like. We have to get to the place where we can say yes.
One of the most offensive arguments you hear every time, and it's just absolutely untrue, it's manipulation of statistics, is they say, there's a proposal for 62 bedroom apartments, so there's going to be 2 kids in every bedroom, every extra bedroom, so that's going to be 120 kids, and it costs $14,000 per student, and they do the math and they come up with this intimidating $1 million figure,
blown out of proportion.
And we're considering closing a school.
Right,
the schools have capacity. It doesn't matter.
Our class sizes are 60% of what they were when you and I went to school.
Yeah.
Per graduating class. Yep. I graduated 300. I think last year's class was 202. I mean.
Oh, okay. Mine was like 126 in Onteora.
Really?
Yeah.
But they've been trending low. My daughter just graduated. I think it was like 140.
No, Cammy, her class was higher than that. They're about
higher.
They're all. I think the last 3 years, Jack's class, they've all been right around 200, give or take. Unless Cammy's class was a down year, maybe. Jill's last year was over 200, and Jack's was just over 200.
That was. I have to look back to be sure.
It could be. I didn't.
But it was.
I mean, I see people commenting, like I saw Bob Littman, who's from Saugerties, commenting on Facebook, like people over 65 shouldn't have to pay school tax because our kids aren't in there. Of course, we all benefit when we're young, maybe, and have families, or maybe not, right? Should single people have to pay school tax? But I think the more important point is just like this burden on real property taxpayers is really onerous. And it would be great if the state as a whole was thinking about other ways to finance school funding, and it would be a lot more equitable.
Agreed. Well, there's a lot of legal precedent for that. Areas of the state that aren't fairly represented for whatever reason don't get disbursements of state aid like areas that are better represented. And there's
right. And really wealthy areas can just supplement. Right, yeah. They're like, we want to have track and field program anyway. We want to have football anyway, or gifted and talented anyway. We'll just raise the money. We'll just exactly. So, yeah.
And I get where seniors who raise their kids and they're not want a tax break. I get why they want a tax break at that point with school taxes. I totally get it.
And they're trying to stay in their home, right? And maybe they're on a retired fixed income.
But there's an understatement of those senior exemptions that we all participate in. Those can really, really, especially if there's someone living off of a pension that they earned 20 years ago and Social Security, their tax burden is going to be very small, like hundreds of dollars in some cases if they're fully qualified.
Take the star, enhanced star. I was looking at the top 10.
I'm advocating for that. I'm not. I just
there's we have those for a
gap in education about people's understanding of that, and very often, and this goes to your point, it's the folks in the middle trying to raise a family who suffer the largest tax burden because there's not. They're buying a home that they could just maybe afford, and then they have children involved in whatever activities.
And they don't get a SALT tax deduction now.
And there's really no help for them to go along. You got to figure it out as you go. Right. And there's a gap. And the shortage in housing there, I think, is partly because of those. And, developers aren't incentivized to build. There's not a big margin.
Right, exactly. I was looking at the top 10 taxpayers in Ulster County, and then I was looking at the top 3 because they're just an order of magnitude bigger. They are New York City DEP, water supply, New York State lands around the watershed. So think of it as water infrastructure for New York City, and Central Hudson. And so then I was like, well, how much of the total assessed value for the county total are those 3 taxpayers? 10%.
Are they really?
10%.
Wow.
Yeah, I was stunned. And really, to me, the takeaway was, and I share this with the IDA because they have a proposal from the people that are laying the electric line in the Hudson. They want a pilot from every county.
Mm-hmm.
Central Hudson and these other utilities are picking up a huge section of the county tax bill. So I think we need to think about that if we're going to be giving exemptions. Like, I don't really want to see a pilot for New York City water supply.
No.
So
Either do the New York School District.
Yeah.
Taxpayers.
Yeah, or the town of Olive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, infrastructure is a big piece of it, and in the top 10 is also Verizon, CSX, so there's a lot of utility infrastructure in there. Yeah. Mohonk is the one private business that pops out.
Wow.
Which makes sense.
Yeah,
They're almost
that does make sense.
Yeah.
But
They're almost like a
10%
preserved
amongst those 3.
selves.
I know. I was stunned. I was like, I had to go to the director of real property, like, am I right about this? This seems really, yeah. So, yeah, utilities are big taxpayers in Ulster County, and we don't really think about it that way. I mean, it may not be the same for you guys, and I don't know this. This question's come back to me, like, which Central Hudson infrastructure? I don't know. Lines down the street are not paying property tax, but are easements, like when you see lines going up into the, a right-of-way, like up into a wooded area, that probably is. And then there are like gas distribution centers, substations. Yeah, and you guys have some significant
We do have
Central
quite a
Hudson
few.
infrastructure in Saugerties, right there
we
off
do,
the
yeah.
thruway. Yeah. So,
That substation was just renovated, and that's a significant piece of equipment, and it's really important because that takes the high tension power down
Right.
and distributes to Saugerties and Woodstock.
yeah. Have you guys gotten complaints about Central Hudson in your offices?
From the storm?
No, from like the call center, people just waiting online, the estimated bills, the change in their,
I just noticed a change. I called Central Hudson yesterday. My cell phone was on
Did you
hold
get
for
in?
20 minutes.
Only 20?
And the girl from Florida who answered my call.
Yeah.
From Florida. From
Yes,
Florida.
they called in. So here's the story. Their customer service software was over 40 years old. It was written in Fortran. They literally could not hire programmers to patch the code anymore. When they went through their transition, they didn't realize how efficient the customer service staff was with the old software. So it took them, it was like, as one of the VPs over there said to me, it was like having to learn a whole new language.
Mm-hmm.
And then many of those folks were retirement age. So they were like, I'm just not going to do this. I'm going to take my retirement now. So they lost a bunch of staff. When I talked to them, because I called over there, I was like, what the heck is going on with you guys? People are telling me they have 8-hour wait times, They called in mutual aid to answer phones.
Oh, so
Did
this
they
girl-
really?
They did. Yes.
Mutual aid to answer.
Yes.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
They needed to.
This girl's from, because I've always been on budget billing, so 19th of every month comes into my account. So yesterday I'm looking at my checking account, I'm like, how come Central Hudson payment didn't come out? So I go on the website, and I'm looking and say it came out September 19th, October 19th, nothing came out, and now it's saying I owe double payment.
Yeah.
And it says my next payment scheduled is October 31st, which my budget billing was October 19th. So I called the girl. I said, this makes no sense. And then it says the double payment's due by November 18th, which is the day before my scheduled payments. And I'm like,
what is happening?
I'm like, what did you guys do to my billing here? I've been paying for 25 years
Yeah.
routinely on the same day every month. And she's like, I have no idea. She goes, I'll take a ticket and give them your email and phone and have someone call you. She goes, I'm just a call center. She was very nice. She was lovely.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't want to get dinged for not paying my bill on time. It's automatic payment. And are we going back to billing every other month? Or what is it? Even that, I'm on budget billing. It's supposed to be monthly.
Right.
So something happened. It's offset by 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And, I just happened to look at my checking account saying, how come my payment didn't come out this month? And I probably waited 20 minutes to a half hour. But then we got talking, and I thought she's like local. I was telling her my grief of the day. I'm like, where are you, by the way? She goes, oh, I'm in Sarasota, Florida. I'm like, okay. I guess everything I said before made no sense to you at all.
It just shows you, like, the software thing can be such a plague, you know, in terms
really
of
can.
just, like, operating the systems. I mean, that's what happened with the ERAP, the rental assistance program in Albany, was a software problem. And it's like, oh, no, you really got to get that stuff right.
Yeah. That's interesting. So now, I was going to say no to the answer to your question, but now the answer is yes. I had a bunch of personal interaction where people were asking me questions.
Yeah.
And now that you shared your experience, I can answer. I have to call them now and let them know that, yeah, they're not crazy. There is a problem.
At least I know. So I'm not crazy either. So I'm thinking,
It was
but
just
funny.
you.
The girl goes, I really have no idea what's going on.
I was getting negative bills. So, the estimated, and I don't understand. I'm like, I'm the comptroller for the county. I can't understand my own electric bill. What's happening?
Well, not only that, but it's January, supposed to be your true-up month. So I looked at my summary. My summary said charges year-to-date, this $260 year-to-date charges for the whole year. Payments to date, $980 or whatever it was. You have a credit balance of $730, but you owe us $960.
And you're like, no, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just like,
I could understand the thinking, the rationale, and I was against this every other month and with the estimating. For homeowners, okay, why in municipalities, school districts, they didn't continue with the every other month? Just out of our department alone, over 70 electric accounts. So now we deal with that instead of every other month. It's at least now Julie's got it set up where it's on auto pay.
Right.
But still, there's
Transaction costs.
Transactions costs, processing it.
Yeah.
And I can never understand that. And I wish they would go back at least for
Larger users, yeah.
in the municipal sector, including school districts. I'm sure the schools got the same issues to every other month. But
We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Thanks for
March,
having me
let's
on,
go.
you guys.
boy, oh
Great,
boy,
March,
that
thank
time
you.
just flies right by. Thank you, March. Always
Appreciate
great
it.
having you.
Definitely.
And look forward to having you next month.
Yeah,
Have a
I'll
great
come
day.
back. I'll be
We'll be
back.
back in a few.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us the first hour. Those just joining us, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We would love to hear from you. In the studio with me is Town Supervisor from Sorgeties, Fred Costello, and the Mayor from the Village of Sorgeties, Bill Murphy, since he does not like the formality of William.
I love William.
You do love William. Okay.
At our meeting the other night, we were calling him Murph. Don't call him Willie. We were calling him Murph. And then somebody felt it had to be formally called the Mayor Murph. Yeah.
Like we're talking Ruth, and then it was like, Murph, what do I call you? I said, Murph. He said, okay. I don't care.
Oh, it was that was another kind of, we had that long relationship. We grew up together. And so it's hard when you're on a panel to, we don't roll that way anyway. It's not a formal thing. We knew half the people in the room on a first name basis. So that's kind of how the flavor of the moment.
I forget who it was, but I think it was one of your village employees. This has to be a couple of years ago. I don't know, maybe when we were you ever on site when we were discussing the water line? Anyway, make a long story short, you're there and I turned to you and, and address you as Murph. So after you had left, and I can't think of who the person was, you call the mayor? You call him Murph?
I sent my emails, Mayor Murph. Or
really?
Murph. Yeah. I respect the title totally, but
now, if I was in an official meeting, I would address you as Mayor
Absolutely,
Murphy.
yeah.
I always address you as Mr. Supervisor,
Right.
Or Supervisor Costello at town board meetings. But, you call the mayor Murph?
It's funny though, Greg, because we've known you for so long, and
I've called Greg a lot of things over the years.
Yes, he has, and we can't share that on the air.
And he's called me a lot of things over the years.
Yes, I have, and we can't share that
on the air either.
But the other day was casual. That's why I was comfortable. Like, if that was a formal meeting, it's different. But it was a town hall open discussion. Yeah. And I don't have a problem that Ruben called me Murph. I mean, I said to you, because you want me to call you Bill? I said, call me Murph. That's what you know me as. What's the big deal?
Oh, then would somebody call him out?
No, he caught himself.
Yeah.
But I think for him, he fell into the casualness of it as well, because he's made presentations similar to that all across the country, and he's been part of forums all across the country. So he's sensitive to the etiquette that you're supposed to use. But at ours,
back in your hometown,
I think he fell into the casual atmosphere of the whole thing too, and he caught himself. And he's like, "Ooh, I apologize. Should I call you Mayor?" And no.
Who's it? Ruben
Linda. He graduated in '91. He was a big football player in high school. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know if you saw him. He's a good guy. So it was, but again, I don't get hung up on titles like that, and my employees call me Murph. They don't call me, maybe a couple call me Mayor, that's just my policy. I don't.
If somebody comes in and is formal, I know they did something wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
First tell. Yeah.
But no, we're a small town. We all know each other. Formalities are great. I love, I'll walk into a store and someone say, "Aren't you the mayor?" And I'm like, "No, I just played a part on TV."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "It's a joke." Or last night, some lady ran into some lady and was like, "You look so familiar." I'm like, "I don't know. Do we know each other?" I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "My picture's in the paper a lot." She goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, it's not police beat, I can tell you that."
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
We have got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning. I have a question I'd like to ask you.
Go ahead, Mrs. R.
Okay. I don't remember the street it's on, but it's off Petition Street, one of the streets, where that house, the roof has collapsed on it. That's been there like that for a couple of years.
Yep, that's
it's
Montgomery?
No, it's on Post Street. And actually, as a matter of fact, Mrs. R, the roof collapsed 2 winters ago. And you have to understand, the village just can't go in and tear down someone's house. There's a lot of legalities. I've been working the legalities to get that house torn down for 2 years. We cannot just go in and tear someone's house down. We can deem it unsafe and rope it off. But the good news is that we finally cracked through all the legal T's and C's, and we actually now have permission to demolish the building. And the next step is to do asbestos removal. We'll actually have a bid opening next week for the asbestos removal on the property. And once we get the asbestos removed and remediated, then the building will be torn down. And it's just a long process, unfortunately, you know. Greg and Freddie can attest to that.
Asbestos removal is a big nut.
Yeah, so that is coming down. I'm thrilled about it because, in all honesty, too, during the 2 years, the owner of the property, twice I had a buyer willing to buy the property from him just to take it off his whip. And
I know.
And he wouldn't sell to him. And this guy, the developer that was going to buy it, was going to tear it down himself and build, add an apartment building and or a new house. And again, I couldn't force the owner to sell the property either. But now I finally got a legal judgment where I can go in and tear the property down. And actually, what's going to happen? The cost of that will go onto the tax bill, and then whoever eventually does buy that property will have to pay that expense. That's the only way the village can recoup it. But we have to tear it down because you're right. It's a safety issue. It's an eyesore. It sucks that it takes 2 years to do something like that,
So with that...
It's not only your eyesight, too. It's a danger, too, because you never know. Kids will try to go in there.
Absolutely.
And what could happen with it. You don't want someone to set it on fire either.
Nope. Well, it's a brick house, so a lot wouldn't burn there. But it's an old schoolhouse, actually. But it's a shame. You're absolutely right, and I try to explain to people. Listen, if I had my druthers, I'd go over and borrow Greg's backhoe and just start tearing it down myself if I could, because it is an eyesore. But unfortunately, there's legalities, and there was a house years ago on Williamson Street that the Mayor Yerrick started with fighting. It took us 15 years to tear a house down on Williamson Street.
So now, with that court ruling, the village...
Well, it's not a court ruling. We just got approved. Our lawyer got us approval to be able to do it. We didn't need a court ruling. We just needed to follow certain paperwork and be able to do it.
Does the village own that property?
No, it's still owned. We had the authority now to go in and tear the building down and do asbestos abatement and tear the building down. Like I said, then the bill itself will go on the tax roll with the property for the next buyer. Obviously, it's going to cost them, because we have no other way of recouping it. And
I can just imagine that process.
Yeah.
All right, we are welcoming our Assemblyman Kevin Cahill. Good morning, Kevin.
Yes, good morning, Assemblyman Cahill.
She's still on the phone.
Are you still there, Mrs. R?
Okay, you didn't do birthdays today.
We didn't have any.
We didn't have any, and I was about ready to announce that, but I wanted to take your call. So thank you again, and unfortunately, listeners and viewers, no birthdays today.
Okay, have a good day, and thanks for all you're doing. I'll be glad when I...
Thank you. Thank you. Always good hearing from you.
Okay, thanks for all you're doing. Take care. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Good morning, sir.
Gentlemen, how are you?
That's quite a stack of paperwork.
It's really not that much. It's just the ballot propositions.
Look, he's dressed like us today. He's got jeans on. He's casual. And
yeah. I actually went to Albany yesterday, and I've been wearing half suits because I'm on Zoom. In the summer I had shorts and a sport coat and a tie on, but I had to put a whole suit on yesterday. We did a program with the Business Council, the Health Plan Association, and the New York State Association Underwriters Association on the single payer plan that my colleague Assemblyman Dick Gottfried has been proposing for as long as you've been alive, Freddie. The four of us, the panel, got together in a room at a hotel, not a hotel room, but in a room at a hotel, and the audience was all remote. But there was a Saugerties resident who knew you, who was actually part of helping us with the production.
Oh, really?
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, cool. I actually did that for the first time 2 weeks ago. I had a court date, and they decided to move it on a claim against the town on property that we don't even own, and they decided to go virtual, where I could. I don't know if everyone was virtual, but I was, and I always felt when you're in front of a judge and to be respectful for a court of law, you wear a sports jacket, shirt, tie.
Right.
So there I was with my jeans on and my work shoes.
But your go to court clothes on top, right?
Absolutely.
Well, this was, I know I've gained weight, but I've also moved it around, So clothes don't fit the way they used to. It's time to go visit a tailor. But anyway, so yeah, I have a stack of paper with me today. A couple of things just before I get to the substance of what I brought today. We did our summer reading program last week, 2 weeks ago.
Good, congratulations.
And by the time we actually got on our Zoom, we didn't do it in person. We're still not ready for that with the Delta variant out there. But we had between 35 and 40 kids on the Zoom, about 50 altogether had signed up for the program, and some, little technical issues, I guess. But over 200 children participated this year, which was terrific. We are in the process of delivering the goodie bags, because usually we'd give them to them when they get there and get them all filled with sugar and send them home with noisy toys. But this year, like last year, we're going to deliver the goodie bags, which are basically donations from businesses in the community to commemorate the fact that these folks have done such a good job over the summer reading and exercising. And we top it all off with a book from the Kingston Library. The part that I miss the most, and I also don't miss it the most because it's where I get sick every year, is posing for pictures with little kids. We do it on the Zoom, but it's really just not the same.
Mm-hmm.
That part is not the same. Everything else we seem to do okay with. We had a terrific storyteller. Mr. Trapani was really good, kept the kids engaged while we did the pictures in a separate electronic room. Between her and Lauren from our office, who kept the kids occupied with 101 questions and as many answers. All in all, it was twice as long as it usually was, but it was also just as much fun. So our summer reading program is done. It's time to start a new one.
Yeah, good. I applauded you on that the last time we did the show together, but yeah, really amazing stuff. And I didn't realize that you guys were the ones who started that.
We did. We started it in 1993, and we started it at the WTZA studios.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nancy Cozine, the anchor?
Well, actually, Greg Floyd was the anchor. So if you watch Albany News, and I'm not kidding about this, if you watch what I think is on Channel 10 now, but if you watch Greg Floyd on Channel 10, he will put an annual news story on about our summer reading program.
Does he really?
Yes.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Well, the first year...
Going since 93, huh?
Yeah, he was the attraction. I wasn't. I mean, people didn't know who I was or care who I was, but they wanted to come and see Greg Floyd, for sure, yeah.
So that was a good partnership then.
It was good.
And he stayed committed to it all these years as well?
He asks me about it every time we see each other, and Greg has become this sort of investigative journalist too, and when he's in the halls in Albany, something bad is about to break, right? So when people see him coming down the hall, they run and they close their doors. They don't want to see Greg.
Don't make eye contact.
And he comes into my, hey, is Kevin here? Hey, Greg, how you doing? And we have a nice exchange, and it's like I'm not really worried. If he comes for me for that, then it is the end of the world. But yeah, he does one of these, sort of, this member of the legislature did this naughty thing, and we're going to go confront him and his staff right now in person, which nobody ever does, of course, except him. So yeah, there's a great fear around him. But to me, he's the guy that made my kids smile at the summer reading program. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Very cool.
And from there, we went to the mall. I'll tell you how long ago this was. You remember Brigham's Ice Cream at the mall? No, of course you don't. It is where, how can I describe this? The food court just opened.
Okay.
And it was pretty much where Old Navy was. There was an ice cream parlor called Brigham's Ice Cream. And so we combined with that, and they had a little stage there. So the second one we did in the mall on the stage. And then since that time, I'm going to say maybe completely since that time, it's been upstairs at the Kingston Library. We also did a Phoenicia Elementary School remote one time. We might have done another remote. I'm thinking we did one in Platico one time too. And we did one in Platico. We did it together with the cable company down there, Cablevision. And we brought in their television personality, and this was the meteorologist. And if you want to see a bunch of kids in a classroom just get glued to a speaker, bring in a meteorologist. And so I was there with that person, and not a single kid remembers I was there for the reading program. Everybody remembers they were there with the weatherman. Right? But so it's been a great source of satisfaction for me and for every member of my staff. Usually one of the newer members of the staff takes on the responsibility for it, but the members of the staff who had done it the year before are there for backup every time. So there is continuity, but there's also a freshness to it every year, which is really terrific. So that's it. And yesterday, the subject, I don't know the end number of people in the audience. We had something between 200 and 300 people were in the audience, and I was the only person, and I wasn't really advocating, I was explaining the bill, but the rest of the panel was against the bill. So it sounded like I was advocating, and at the end of the presentation, the moderator had to say, just for the record, you should see Assemblyman Cahill in the Health Committee meetings. He is not an apologist for this bill.
That was thoughtful that they did.
It was.
I found myself in that situation. You're trying to get information out there, but as you're doing it, people are like, well, you're for this. I'm like, no.
First,
I feel obligated to share information that I've benefited from.
So the thing that I argued with my colleagues on the panel, there were no other legislators, just the folks on the panel, they were using their talking points against the bill. And they've been using these talking points for 15 years. And over the 15 years, the sponsor of the bill has amended it to address each one of those talking points, but they haven't changed their talking points. So basically what I said was, listen, if you want to debate what's not in the bill, we can sit here and debate what's not in the bill the same way, a third of the country is debating whether there was a stolen election, and 40% of the country thinks that there's all these alternative ways to get rid of coronavirus. I said, or we can talk about the bill. And we never did.
Never got to that part. What is the nature of the bill? Do you want to share?
It's the single-payer health care bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, it's controversial in and of its own right. You don't have to make stuff up about it to have a controversy. So, they were arguing that, there's no way for, that the government's going to set the rates for doctors. That's not true. That no insurance companies can offer any health insurance anymore. That's also not true. And, going down the list of things that were not true, the Business Council talked about the 10,000 businesses that would see increased costs, but didn't mention the 220,000 businesses that would see reduced costs, small businesses. And the 10,000 businesses that would see increased costs was based upon an estimate that they're not providing health insurance now, and they would have to pay the tax. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to see their costs go up because the tax is graduated. So long story short, it was difficult to get through the rhetoric and get to the substance. I had the bill in front of me. Mm-hmm. And so what we're doing now, my staff and I are doing now, is we're taking the individual questions. And instead of me responding verbally and just kind of not having a citation, we're just going to take the question and relate it to a section of the bill so people can see with their own two eyes. So
that conversation doesn't get a platform. There's the folks that are going to be opposed to it, and like you just said, they're going to recite all the reasons why and point to failures in countries that have a single payer system where they can't get hip replacements or whatever it may be. And then the folks who are going to advocate for it are going to talk about the potential for savings and the equitable component of healthcare, and those two conversations never click.
And the other thing I pointed out was, I said, they were picking away this, that, and the other little detail of the bill. I said, you just wrote tomorrow morning's Times Union headline. Legislator writes a bill that's not perfect. Oh my goodness!
That might not
this may be the first time
going to be the front page for sure.
So anyway, so speaking of legislation, so many times the constituents in town meetings especially talk to me about, well, why can't we have a say over things? Why can't we have a vote on this, that, or the other issue that you're dealing with? Why is it always up to the legislature? And in some states there is direct democracy where the public goes and they vote on different propositions and they get a say on basic governance issues. That's not the way New York is done. We are a representative government as opposed to a direct democracy government. And usually what it does is we elect people, supervisors, mayors, town boards, county legislatures, state legislatures, city councils, to make the laws for us. and administrative agencies fill in the gaps. But oftentimes, when we're talking about fundamental issues, they do wind up directly in front of the people. And this year, in Ulster County, there are 6 of them. In Dutchess County, there are 7, and in Rhinebeck, there are 8. So I was going through the ballot the other day, and I noticed that there is only one competitive race in my community where I live. The only race that has an opponent is the Aldermanic race. And the county legislator is unopposed, all the county officers are unopposed, the Supreme Court judge is unopposed, the family court judge is unopposed. However, there are these 6 propositions, and each one is pretty significant, some more significant than others. I'm going to say that raising the jurisdiction of the New York Civil Court from $25,000 to $50,000 is not going to cause any of my neighbors to go out to vote, and that's one of the 6 propositions. The balance of power between the county executive and the county legislature is on the ballot when it comes to personnel. That's an actual ballot proposition. Should the county executive be constrained to maintain a line if that line is placed in the budget, or should that person be given the flexibility to move that line around? I'm misexplaining it, but the ballot is much more simple and much more direct. That's one of the questions on the ballot. How do we run our county? Should the executive have more power than he or she has right now, or should the legislature have more of an opportunity to check that power? On the state level, there's a couple of very interesting propositions. 2 of them, you wonder why they're even in the Constitution, and we have heard, particularly when we're talking about election reform, why don't you just fix it? And number 1 is to allow for same-day registration. You know, you've moved, you turned 18, you've never voted before, and you decided to vote, and you find out you missed a deadline. And why was that important? Well, it was important because we used to have manual paper books, and now we don't. Everything is electronic, so same day makes sense. But it didn't make sense in our Constitution. We have to change our Constitution. So one of the propositions allows for same-day registration, and
that's Proposition 4, right?
That's Proposition 3.
3.
Yeah. So now, 25 days before election, right now, if they decided they wanted to vote and they weren't registered, they can't.
They can't.
Right?
Yeah.
Under this proposition, the legislature would be empowered to make a law that would allow it. Right now, we can't.
Right up to day of vote?
The Constitution would say that. Whether the legislature says that is another question. The other proposition, Greg, this is Proposition 4, does away with what I think is one of the most arbitrary parts of the voting law, as opposed to overall election law, which there's a lot of arbitrariness in. And this would allow someone to obtain an absentee ballot because they want to, without having to make up an excuse. You don't have to say I'm sick. You don't have to say I'm going to New York City. You don't have to say I'm going on vacation. You don't have to say I have a work assignment. You don't have to say I'm working from 5:59 in the morning to 9:01 at night. You can just say, I want an absentee ballot because it's easier for me to vote that way and more convenient for me to vote that way, and it's my right, so damn it, give me the ballot. And that's what Proposition 4 says. I don't know if anybody thinks the previous one was controversial, but this surely should not be. People should be allowed to vote absentee.
And here's the bottom line. If somebody wants to vote absentee in this day and age, you just make up an excuse, so they should have that right without having to come up with an excuse.
Right.
It's true. There are folks that, they suffered an injury because they had a car accident 10 years ago. They became eligible for absentee, but they like it, so they still maintain it.
Yeah.
So, they're not doing anything, in my view, that's wrong. If it's legitimate and they put in their request and they check through the system, happy that they can do it. I think that's a great way for many people to vote. And, it's a little bit easier now that we have early voting, but somebody could wake up and be sick on election day, and now they may or may not have that opportunity. But absentee creates another platform, and we certainly want to give as much opportunity for people to vote as we can.
I also don't want to confuse political rhetoric with real-life reality. Election fraud, when I say this, I'm not talking in absolute terms, but I am talking figuratively, doesn't exist. It largely does not exist. There are pockets of it, there are instances of it, but trust me when I tell you, there's more fraud taking place in the corner store, between the candy counter and the cash register than there is in the elections of this country. There's more fraud in virtually every aspect of life than there is in elections, and that's because there are competing interests with their eyes on it. 20 states have started same-day registration. No excuse absentee ballot voting is available in almost every state. Now, if this passes, it will be available here. Is there room for mischief? Of course there is. But we also have a system of checks and balances. We have, in most places, at least two parties who want to make sure that the other side doesn't cheat. And they spend a lot of time making sure that happens.
We had Ashley and John on last week.
Oh, yeah, right.
And anyone in Ulster County can feel assured that legitimate votes will be counted, and they will be counted in an open and transparent way. And if it's illegitimate, it's probably going to get caught in the system.
Right. And you know as well as I do that the folks who are working in the polling places are often as nonpartisan as they are partisan. They are oftentimes people that are just concerned with doing their civic duty to make sure democracy is given its fair day. So fraud is not rampant. No matter what the headlines have been saying, no matter what people have been saying, you take this crackpot company in Arizona that was hired and spent millions of dollars and wrecked hundreds of machines. And came up with the result that was even more favorable to the other side than they thought it would be. It doesn't exist.
But the rhetoric doesn't acknowledge that.
Or what about the one case of fraud that was proven where the Texas governor or the guy made the payment to the person?
Yes.
And it went the other way.
Yes. I read about that too.
He paid the guy $25,000.
So when I say it doesn't exist, I don't mean it doesn't exist at all. But it is so infinitesimal, we should not be designing a system around it.
We should acknowledge what we've done, and as opportunities come up to make those protocols even tighter, do it. I think anybody who listened last week should feel comfort that the database that we use if I decide to vote in Kingston and not Saugerties, that the database that produces my ballot isn't connected to the voting machine. So once that paper ballot's inserted, I will certainly be disqualified from getting another ballot on election day, but there's no way to influence that ballot. It's in the machine, it's secure, and it's not connected to the internet. So we know.
So there are two others, and now we start getting into the realm of controversy, where people might want to think twice about their own vote. I know how I'm voting on each of them. I don't care if I reveal it, but the one proposition is redistricting reform, removing some of the bias that was built into the original redistricting amendment that was put in place 10 years ago, but also freezing the number of state senators. Since I've been in the legislature, and I've been mistaken about this before, I know that, well, let's go beyond that. In the last 50 years, there have been 57, 60, 61, 62, and 63 senators. I don't know why, except that somebody needed to change the math. The famous seat is the one where Senator Michelle Hinchy is in right now. That was the 63rd seat. Many people said it was created to give her predecessor, my friend George Amador, a seat, but I actually believe it was to carve up the other districts to protect the other state senators around them to make sure that their incumbency was protected. So this kind of says, listen, here's the tools that you have, and this is what you have to work with, and you can't gerrymander folks by adding new districts. So that's a little controversial. There's been some. I will say that the Republican Party is against it because it removes some of the bias that they were responsible for installing in the redistricting 10 years ago. The Democratic Party has largely come out in favor of it. Civic groups have been split. I won't say down the middle. I'm going to say 60-40 in favor. But there are significant civic groups that are skeptical about that amendment, and I would just urge people to learn more about it and make your own decision. It's going in the Constitution, and that means once it's in there, if we want to undo it, we have to go through the same process.
Is that a 2-year process or one?
This is the last year of the process. The 2-year process precedes. I'll come back to the last one, but the way the constitutional process works is the legislature has to pass it in 2 successive legislatures. So that could be as short as 2 years or as much as 4 years. After the legislature passes it for 2 years, then it goes before the voters. And after the voters decide, then it does become law if they decide, and it doesn't if they don't. So, and there's one more, but do you have a caller?
No.
Okay. Oh, you have a break. You have a break.
Keep going.
We're going to go straight through because we started a second late with you, so we're going to try to preserve as much time as we can.
So the very last one that I'm going to mention is Proposition 2, and this provides the right to every person in New York State, the right to clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment. That's not a guarantee in the Constitution right now. And I read an article yesterday that quoted Peter Awanowitz, who is the former DEC commissioner and a very, very active environmentalist. And he believes, and the environmental community believes, that this will provide the tools they need to go after some of these very, very difficult pollution issues. Oftentimes you have to wait until pollution has done its damage before you can do anything about it. Like, you can have somebody coming in and they want to build something that you know is going to pollute, but until it does, you can't bring action against them to do anything about it. This would give more tools to prevent pollution before it happens, and the old ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is part of it. But it would also give citizens the right to take action against the state for when it pollutes or when it doesn't properly enforce the laws that are supposed to prevent pollution.
You read that, my immediate thought became it would give Saugerties residents standing to challenge the DEC and the DEP with the turbidity issue in the creek.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
Entirely possible.
It changes the platform for us to make our argument. I mean, right now we're basically imploring the DEC to be more aggressive in how they administer the agreement, but this would actually create a legal component where we could have a court intervene.
Right. So a lot is on the ballot, even if the only race that's being contested is a town council, city council, or county legislative race. And I know you have several competitive county legislative races and other races going on in Saugerties, but there's also a lot of places where there are only a few races. March Gallagher is on the ballot this year. She doesn't have an opponent. Nina Postropek, who appears on the air here. So I think it's a good thing for people that if they appear on GHQ, they wind up without an opponent. Nina Postropek is actually cross-endorsed by both parties. Sarah Raykoff, who's a well-respected attorney in town for many years, is on the ballot as our new family court judge. I assume she will be placed in that seat as soon as the election is over. She won't wait till January. Our Supreme Court races.
Perfect resume to take that position too. She's worked closely with the former judge, and she'll really do a good job.
And she works with the present judge as well. And on our Supreme Court, we have a very well-respected attorney from Kingston, another one from Gardner, who, to Ulster County, and then another young attorney from further up north, all on the ballot, all unopposed. So, you go in and it seems like maybe you don't have much to say on the ballot because there's only one or two contested races, but
obviously the propositions are very important.
Right. Yeah. Maybe what the election workers should do is hand it to your proposition first.
Yeah.
So
upside down.
So this is the opportunity.
Because there are 3 contested legislative races. There's an open seat left by retiring Mary Worrow, and that's being contested by Aaron Levine and Gregory Roque. And then in District 2, there is incumbent Albert Bruno and former legislator Joe Maloney going toe-to-toe, and that's certainly a competitive race. And then Dean Fabiano and Eric Minucha are competing in that district, which straddles Saugerties and the town of Ulster. Right. And that's a fairly competitive race as well.
My brother Brian is in a competitive race.
In a competitive race, yeah. I saw Brian Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so there's a lot happening, and then the council seats are contested. John Schoonmaker is leaving the town board, leaving his seat vacant, and Peg now is filling the balance of a term that was vacated by a former council member, and there's 4 candidates for that seat. Kaylee Zugala, Kevin Freeman, Peg is running again, and Zach Horton.
Right.
So there's plenty plenty for people to consider.
And I was down in the town of Esopus last week. Maybe we should mention this too, for the groundbreaking, finally, of the reconstruction of the Rondout Creek Bridge. And the town of Esopus is just filled with candidates for office. The current supervisor is running for town board. 2 other candidates are running for town supervisor. Other people are running for the clerk is up, and so there's a lot of competitive elections around. I didn't want to create the impression that everybody lives in the first ward in Kingston, but surely there are competitive elections as well. So
even within Kingston, I think Dave Donaldson's race is garnering a lot of interest to see how that's going to go.
Yes,
and Dave certainly seems reinvigorated and is working extraordinarily hard.
They are. I applaud all the candidates.
Yeah,
and say what you will about our political opponents. Everybody who gets involved in this deserves our thanks for participating in democracy.
Absolutely.
So I ran into a young woman on Sunday who said, "I think I know you. You know my grandfather." And I said, "Yes, I served with him on the county legislature." And I ran against him, but he's a good friend. But small town politics is one thing, but people should understand that this is where policies are made.
Mm-hmm.
If in the case of the city council, if you think that you have a point of view on bike lanes or good cause eviction, or how much the mayor should be paid. When you elect your city council people, they're the ones that are making that decision, right? And when you elect your mayors and your supervisors, they are also the ones that are making that decision. If you care about things like making sure that you have an opportunity to decide on when you can register and when you can vote, that's what state legislators do. And of course, at the federal level, our members of Congress and our people in the United States Senate are grappling with what could be a transformative federal package of, moving us into the 21st century in terms of economic development, environmental protection, things like that are long overdue, that we haven't seen the likes of which in probably 50 years. So every single office is important, but you also have a chance to have your voice heard.
Yeah.
So the Rondout Creek Bridge, I'll mention that very briefly. Long time coming. The bridge is about depends on what you count it from. It's anything from 105 years old to 99 years old.
Why the big disparity?
Well, because it took a long time to build,
Yeah.
and it took a long time to complete, even after it was built.
So do you count when you put the first stone for the abutment, or do you count when they cut the ribbon?
I think if you look at the cornerstone, that would be the right thing to do, which puts it at about 100.
Okay.
And it has been in need of a complete reclamation for a very long period of time, and it has never been completely reconstructed the way it is right now. I think it cost $1 million to build. It's going to cost $44.5 million to renovate. But when it is done, it will go from a 3-ton bridge to a 20-ton bridge, which still isn't big enough for the big tractor trailers, thankfully for the neighbors, but it's big enough for delivery trucks. It's big enough for fire trucks, things of that nature that can now cross it. Is, as I described, the difference between the Wirt Street Bridge, the Rondout Creek Bridge, and the Judge Lorne Bridge, which many people may be familiar with on Route 9W, Frank Koenig Boulevard, is the Judge Lorne Bridge and Frank Koenig Boulevard are designed to get you around places, to get you around the city of Kingston. The Wirt Street Bridge, Rondout Creek Bridge, is intended to get you from one place to another within the same neighborhood. So it's a valuable project. It will give this bridge another 100 years of life with the proper maintenance. It should be around for another 100 years. It's on the National Historic Registry. It's the only suspension bridge the Department of Transportation maintains in upstate New York. It is not on a state highway, so getting this done was monumental, and it's actually started. The construction is taking place as we speak right now. So, and when it's done, it's going to have those fun lights on the top.
They are fun, though. I mean, it's fun to make fun of them, but they're, when you look at the new bridge, the Cuomo Bridge, the Mid-Hudson Bridge, they've been creating opportunities for tributes for essential workers, first responders, all the veterans, many other occasions to celebrate and memorialize what's going on, and they're terrific markers.
I just think as a backdrop for the Italian festival.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Have the Italian flag colors, and for the Irish festival, and for the Caribbean festival, and all the other festivals we have downtown. It provides a new backdrop. But I mean, that's the fun part. The most important part is that the bridge is going to be safe. It's going to be attractive, and it's going to be usable for pedestrians, for bicyclists, and for cars.
Perfect.
So it's going to really reconnect the Conley neighborhood, the Slatesburg neighborhood, the Port Ewan neighborhood with the Rondout and Wilbur and downtown neighborhoods of Kingston. It should be, and the Strand neighborhoods of Kingston. It should be pretty terrific.
It has been a long process, but the assessment of the condition took longer than anticipated, and some of the findings pointed to more work, correct?
Absolutely. People, the Department of Transportation calls it a structure. I call it a machine. It's got moving parts. It's got things that are affected by humidity. It's got things that need to be dehumidified.
Mm-hmm.
It's got connections that need to be tended to. The very connections need to be tended to on a regular basis. And, honestly, if it's not a state highway, it's not the number one priority of the Department of Transportation, so over the years it hasn't been given the attention it deserves. Once we give it that attention, it should be good to go for a while. And then we have to get into the concept of what it should be called, because no one quite has that figured out yet. Is it the Wirt Street Bridge? Is it the Rondout Creek Bridge? Is it the Port Ewan Bridge?
Yes.
I'm going to go.
All those things.
Not the Kevin Cahill Bridge?
Never.
No, you're commenting about the lighting, and it'll never be the Cuomo Bridge to me. It's the Tappan Zee.
It's the Malcolm Wilson Bridge to me.
Oh, okay.
It was named for a great governor who was only governor for a short period of time, but who ushered in a great deal of reform in his few years as governor, and he was from that area, and it was named for him with great fanfare about 25 years ago, and then when the new structure was put in its place, they said, "Oh, it's a new bridge, let's rename it." So it's still the Malcolm Wilson Bridge to me. And if the opportunity, and listen, all due respect to Mario Cuomo, he was truly a great leader. But if the opportunity presented itself to rename the bridge, I would absolutely vote to rename it. Rename it to the old name Malcolm Wilson, but everybody's always going to call it the Tappan Zee.
Yeah.
What do you call the bridge that goes between the town of Ulster and Rhinecliff?
Rhinecliff.
What's the bridge called?
I call it the Rhinecliff Bridge.
Yeah.
Isn't it Peg Leg Beats?
Nope.
That's the highway.
What do you think, Greg? It's the Governor George Clinton Bridge.
Oh, I've seen that.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes.
And what about the bridge into Poughkeepsie? What's that called?
I have no idea.
That's the Franklin Roosevelt Bridge. And what about the bridge between Newburgh and Beacon? What's the name of that bridge?
Newburgh Beacon.
No, that's the Hamilton Fish Bridge.
Is Rip Van Winkle the Rip Van Winkle?
I don't know. I was sleeping for that one. Yes, it is.
Very nice. Rip Van Winkle, I was sleeping with that.
That was perfect.
That was perfect.
So, anyway, you have an announcement here?
I can do that right now. Just hand it to me. Ulster County Office for the Aged, along with New York Connects and the Ulster County Department of Social Services, is presenting Halloween Trunk or Treat Human Services Expo. It's today, Wednesday, October 27th, from 11 to 2. If it rains, which it's not going to, Thursday, October 28th is the rain date, taking place at Tech City Parking Lot, 300 Enterprise Drive, Kingston, New York. Get connected. Services for children, adults, and seniors. Local service providers and area agencies are available to discuss their services and answer any questions. Attendees are to park their vehicles and visit each provider for a Halloween treat to learn about their services. So again, today, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Tech City, and actually in Sorgady's.
Say, don't you have one?
This afternoon, the trunk or treat is taking place. I believe they still had that last year, even during the pandemic.
They did.
Yeah,
Yes.
and obviously they put the proper protocols in place, but that was originally scheduled for yesterday, but due to the rain, got moved to this afternoon.
Trunk or treat was a good turnout too, right? The trunk or treat
Over the weekend, the Touch a Truck.
Touch a truck.
Touch a truck.
It was
yeah.
Yes.
They estimated over 1,000.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest one we've hosted. And
Joe Schaefer was sending me pictures because he was there as the sweeper, and he dressed up and he was handing out toys.
Perfect.
The biggest attraction.
Yeah, and it's funny. Something that simple.
Was the Zamboni snow.
Zamboni, of course, yeah.
Diving into it, snowball fights, and
that's cool.
It was just unbelievable to see.
I was at Quick Check a few weeks ago with my grandson in the back seat, and I looked over where they were building a car wash, and my friend's got a construction company, and all of his equipment was over there. And I was going to bring my grandson over and just have him put his hand on a truck and take a picture and send it to my friend and say, "Oh, we came to your Touch a Truck exhibit." But I figured his insurance company would go a little crazy. But can I throw one more thing in about voting?
You most certainly can. You can throw anything you want to throw.
If you want to vote and you're in Ulster County, you can do it today. You don't have to wait till Election Day. You don't have to do it absentee. Today till 5 o'clock, 9 to 5. Thursday, 12 to 8. Friday, 9 to 5. Saturday and Sunday, 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. In Kingston, the Midtown Neighborhood Center. In Saugerties, the Senior Center, the Greco Center. In Ellenville, the Public Library. In Olive, the American Legion Hall. Marlborough, the Town Hall. And in New Paltz, this is the first year at the Student Union Building. They're going to be able to vote. An election day on Tuesday is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. A lot of races on the ballot, but if you want to vote, early voting is available this year. I guess 1,000 people early voted over the weekend in Ulster County, give or take 1,000. Not as many people are early voting this year as did for the presidential, that's for sure. But if you want to avoid the inconvenience, if you don't want to forget, you want to be one of the people that participates, your chance to do it is now. So early voting today, 9 to 5.
And that information is readily available on most websites. Certainly the Board of Elections website has it. So there'll be opportunities for early voting right up until Sunday.
That's right.
So take advantage of it. It takes a lot of the pressure off the day of. I noticed, late in the evening on Election Day, there used to be significant lines. And even last year during the presidential, it was a relatively calm and evenly paced activity. And I credit early voting for most of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to do it this year.
Early vote?
For years.
I'm kind of hooked. I like it.
For years, I've always voted between 8:15 and 8:30 in the evening, so then I could see how many people had voted in the district.
That's a fun thing to do, because a lot of times, depending on which district you're looking at, you can make some fairly accurate predictions about how the outcome of the election is going to go.
You always get a piece of leftover pizza, too, and you go, leftover food. It's really good. I try to plan that way, or a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
So I'll tell you a quick story about, and I might have said this on the air before, but you all know Tom Turco, the former Republican County Election Commissioner. For many years, I was going to Michael's Candy or to Krause's, and I was buying small boxes of candy and bringing them to as many polling places as I could. I couldn't get to them all in my assembly district. But I would bring boxes of candy. And quite honestly, the first year it had a little sticker on top that said, Cahill for Assembly. And quite correctly, Tom called me up and said, "You can't deliver that candy to a polling place. You have campaign information on it, and that's illegal in the polling place, so please stop." And I said, "Not a problem, Tom." So next year, I put the sticker on the inside of the box so that nobody would see it except for the people eating the candy. And Tom called up and said, "Kevin, I told you not to put the stickers on the candy, and you put the stickers on the candy. And if you keep it up, I'm gonna have to bring an action against you." So I called the Democratic Commissioner, who I think was John Parody at the time. Maybe it was Kathy Me. And I said, "Call me when Tom hits the road." And so he was out of the office, and I went to the Board of Elections, and I had a 2-pound box of candy. And I covered it with my stickers. And when he came back, it was sitting on his desk.
That's great.
but he was doing his job. I give you that. I have people that yell at me when I just walk into the polling place because for the years I'm running, "Oh, you're a candidate, you can't be here," which is not true. Not only can you be there, it's written into the law that we have the ability to inspect machines. And but my good friend Butch Denner in New Paltz, Republican activist there, we have an annual, we haven't had it a couple of years, but we have an annual conflict when I walk into the middle school. And he's like, "I'm going to get you arrested. You don't belong here." And I said, "I got a poll worker certificate. Wait a second, then I'm a candidate." And so I was with former Democratic Chairman Bob Golnick one day, and we went down there, and he said, "Why do you want to go here? Why do you want this conflict?" I said, I guess I'm a traditionalist.
Yeah.
So we go in, and Butch again threatened to have me arrested, and I said, Bob, let's test it this year. He said, "You're crazy," and he pulled me, made me leave the polling place right then and there. But people take it very seriously,
As they should.
And I've been confronted as many times by Democratic inspectors as I have by Republican inspectors. It doesn't really matter the party. But I remember early on in my, and I probably shouldn't admit this, early on in my political career, I remember specifically she's not with us, Jane Barnes, was an inspector at the Central Firehouse, and I went in, and she said, "I wish I could campaign for you." I wish she was an inspector, and she said, "I wish I could campaign for you, but we were told we're not allowed to do that." And so I get up to leave, and I'm leaving the firehouse, and there's a line all the way out the door, and she says, Kevin Cahill, come on back here, Kevin Cahill. Aren't you running? I think you left your pen here, Kevin Cahill.
We've got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. Kevin, one thing that would be nice is that if all the local politicians around the balloting places in the small towns and stuff would drop off coffee, donuts, and bagels to the poll workers on Election Day, because they are there from 5:15 in the morning to 9:30 at night.
You're absolutely right. I like when the polling places are in schools, and the schools have their bake sales, because even if I forgot to bring something into the polling place, I can have a twofer. I can stop and support the PTA, and I can also come in and bring real treats to the poll workers. So I hear you, and I do my best.
Yes, because I'm working early voting down at the Newport polling site, and that one is not really that convenient for senior citizens who have walking abilities, because where the elevator comes out and where the actual polling site is quite a walk, and then the parking lot and steps to get into it. That was a bad choice.
Is this the one at the Student Union?
That's the one at the Student Union.
Yeah, there's a ramp, George, from the parking lot.
From 11:30 in the morning through the weekend. So
yeah,
we
there is actually
complaints from people about the parking, and we had one person who was walking down the steps. Right, luckily he was not that old of a person, and a student walking up the steps was looking at the cell phone and brushed by him. If that was a 70, 80-year-old person, they would have knocked him right down the steps.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's 100% convenient, but every polling place in New York State is handicap accessible now because of a law we passed, a law I wrote when I was chairman of the Task Force on People with Disabilities. And indeed, there is a ramp from the parking spaces up to the Student Union building at the SUNY Newport's campus. So if someone has a disability, if they're wheelchair bound, if they're mobility impaired, they shouldn't be distracted from going. But if they don't believe they can make it to the polls, they should probably, one, take advantage of early voting where there's not going to be as big a crowd, or two, apply for an absentee ballot.
Yep, and but no, that polling site is not bad. I was there Sunday and Monday, and I'll be back there tomorrow and stuff to work. And Election Day, I'll be down at the Town of Lloyd American Legion building. But I just thought I'd throw it in. Hey, candy is a good idea too, especially chocolate. But Kevin, thank you so much for all that you guys do and everything else. Everybody have a terrific day, and everybody, please get out and vote. I don't care who you vote for; just get out and vote. So many people gave up their lives for the right that we have to be out there and vote. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Have an awesome day.
The polling place he's talking about is a very interesting one. In a presidential year, there will be as many as 2,000 voters in that polling place. In a non-presidential year, if you get to 300, that's a big number.
Wow. That's sad in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad in a way.
Yeah.
We share a frustration with that because all these elections are important. They all have implications, and there's a reason that they exist. We have the right to vote for so many things we don't even take advantage of.
This year, a court has ruled that there will be a polling place on the Bard campus. Last year and the year before, the Board of Elections attempted to put a polling place in what was an utterly inaccessible place for anybody who was on foot. It was down a darkened road, no sidewalk, not accessible whatsoever. And the court has ruled that there should be a polling place on campus this year. I'm curious to see what the turnout is in a local election at a campus like Bard that is so worldly in their thinking as so many people. But they also
be similar to what happens at the New Paltz campus.
I think not, because Bard also has a whole curriculum in civic engagement, and they concentrate on community building. So there's a distinct possibility that the Bard students will actually have a significant impact on the election this year, as opposed to a presidential year where everybody is voting. So it could have the actual opposite effect there.
I'll be curious then if that's the outcome.
It will also speak to the curriculum, right? That
Yeah.
will.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen, for letting me give you a monologue today.
Wealth of information.
Pleasure to have you, yeah.
Wealth of information, as always.
I always feel smarter when I leave on Wednesdays.
Good day in, or
Then I show up.
So, State Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, thank you very, very much. We
you.
always look forward to having you. We always look forward to breakfast. Mayor Bill Murphy, Village of Saugerties, thank you. Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties, thank you. Lawrence Maxwell, thank you. And most importantly, thank you, listeners and viewers. We'll be right back here, same time, same place, next Wednesday.